I did notice in the previous iPhone video that I created that the texturing was a little bit too long. I figured that after people got a model that already took them maybe 1.5 hours or 2, and then you have to do a texturing tutorial for 1 hour, it's kind of like, ugh, please hurry up, just give me the materials, man, I want to have my iPhone. So in this video, I'm going to improve that and actually make it very fast. So let's do that right now. Let's start with the outer area of this iPhone. I will go into the materials, select these middle two parts, Control plus plus plus, and perhaps plus. I think this should be enough for the middle part. So now we should have the entire loop selected. It seems like it didn't take this area. No problem, we're just going to do it by hand. Let's give this a new material, and then I will press Ctrl I, give a new material, and assign it as well. So now this one is separated from the rest, as you can see. I'm going to call this material titanium. Now, for the titanium, we're going to start with a noise texture, press Ctrl T, and place the object in the vector. Also add a color ramp, place it right there, and let's have a look at this material. All right, so we have some blotches right there. Let's apply the scale as well, by the way. And it seems like we missed an area right here. Not sure why that happened, but it did. So we're simply going to select it by hand and assign the material. Now, probably also did that on the other side. Now I'm going to scale the Z-axis to 2000. And that will give us these lines like this all over the model, which will be the kind of material that titanium is. By the way, I am using JHB Central as my HDRI in order to serve as a guide for this animation. Now, this color ramp should be switched for this color ramp, and I'll show you exactly what the values are. This one is standing on position 0.318, and this one is standing on position 0.705. And now this color can be the hex code DFDFDFFF. You can plug the color into the color of the principal BSDF, like so. Then we're going to use the same noise texture to drive the roughness. So right here we have another color ramp. They are both at default position, but this color has been brought down ever so slightly in order to make it a bit more reflective. And the hex code for that is CFCF color into the roughness. Increase the metallic. And now all we need to do is add some bump to this. So let's add a bump node, vector into the height, normal into the normal. I'm going to set the strength to 0.03, something like that. And the distance can be set to 1, as well as the filter width. And you can always make it stronger if you like. For now, I'm going to set it to 0.071. I think this looks pretty good, and we can still see that it has that texture. Now I want to mix it with another noise texture in order to give some fine-grained detail. So bring in the noise texture, Ctrl T, object in the vector. We could have also taken that one, but I always do this because it's faster. Duplicate the bump and place it right here. The normal should go into the normal, and this one obviously will go into the normal. But now we can use this vector in the height and add some extra detail to this, some extra bump. So I'm going to set this to a scale of 750. Let's have a look at this. And now we have these little specks, this little dot. There you go, we get some extra detail in here. I think it's not enough actually, so I'm going to set it to 1500 and decrease the strength ever so slightly. I just want this to be a small extra layer of detail that will break up the pattern a little bit and make it seem just slightly more real if you zoom in on this. So I went for a scale of 2500 on this bump has a strength of 0.03 and this one a strength of 0.02. And that concludes our titanium. Looks pretty premium, looks pretty cool. We have a very nice looking texture here. Now on to the next texture. Let's select the relevant parts. And I want to make sure to select everything that's part of the backside except for this area right here. And the way I'm going to do it is simply select this entire loop going around here. Select loop inner regions. There you go. And now we have everything on this inside connected. And I believe it should end exactly where our titanium also ends, which is the case. Make a new material, backside neutral, and assign. Now for this neutral backside, I will increase the metallic to 1, bring in a noise texture. Once again, Ctrl T. Let's bring in a color ramp as well. And the values I'm going to use for this color ramp are almost near white. So this one is the hex code of E1, E1, E1FF. And the other one is a clear white with a value of 1, which is FFFFF. I'm going to set the detail to 15 and the roughness to 0.9. And now we have something that is quite shiny and metallic, but still pretty white and metal-like. I will bring the roughness down to 0.4. Now this inner area right here seems to have a different material than the other part. So we definitely need to do that as well. I'll simply select this outer loop. Let's go to select loops, loop in region, and give this a new material. What I will do is I will first turn it into backside neutral, and then I will make it its own material like this. And then I will call it backside apple. So now it is its own material. And if we make changes to this, it should only occur to this area and not to the rest. I will bring the roughness down just to give it this extra gloss finish. Perhaps I will set it to 0.3, but we should also add an Apple logo. So let's go over here, let's duplicate the principled BSDF. Let's select both of these, Ctrl 0 to add a mix shader, Ctrl T on the mix shader, press G, move this to the side. All right, Apple logo, Q projection. And I'm going into the UV editor, and I will make sure to select the Apple logo right here, so we can actually see what we're doing. And we want this to be a different material in order to see where the Apple logo is, because I can see it right now, but it's not very clear. So decrease the roughness just a little bit in order to see what we're doing. So I actually just looked at some reference images, and it feels to me like the roughness on this one is higher than on this one. So let's select the Apple backside logo, and let's increase the roughness to 0.6. And that will actually change it so that this is a bit more matte, this is a bit more reflective, and then the Apple logo can shine and be reflective as well. So if we have a look at this Apple logo, we set the roughness to 0.3, so now it is reflective indeed, and it is just white with metallic, and we plugged it in the vector. So let's go into the UV editor, let's go into edit mode, detoggle this button right here, let's select everything SX-1 in order to invert it, and now I'm going to scale it up until I feel that this is correct. It should probably be in the middle of this area. Let's go over here to the shader editor, and let's set this from repeat to extend. And now we should only have the Apple logo right there. All right, so looking at this, we have some weird texture issues right here. I'm not entirely sure why it occurs only at this area and not on all the other ones. But there is an easy solve. We can simply go into edit mode. Let's select this loop, and Alt-C, let's also select the loop that's inside of there. So there is a loop like this one. And in order to get that loop right, we have to go throughout the entire model because it's one of those broken loops. And now we should have both inner loops selected. Let me see. Yeah, that does seem to be the case right there. And if we now press Shift-E, there you go. What's going on? Windows, stop being like this. Use your mobile phone? No. Get out of here. Who are you? God, I'm being attacked by Windows. Anyway, the problem has been solved. There are no more issues like right over there with the shading. So we actually solved that problem. Apple logo looks pretty smooth and cool as well, so that's nice. I feel like it might be a bit too rough though. So instead of 0.6, I will just do 0.45. Yeah, and now we can see the difference, but it's not that gigantic. We could also do 0.5. Yeah, let's just keep it in the middle. 0.5. And now for these buttons, we're going to select all the buttons, naturally. I will select the iPhone, copy material to select it, and that will give us the same material as we have right here. But in this case, it is the titanium that we are working on. I'm going to copy that, and I will call it titanium button. And what I'll do is simply drag the bump out of the button. I'll also set this to 1 right here on the scale. And now we have some pretty slick and smooth looking buttons. So now let's select the cameras and let's give it the same materials. Copy material to select it. And what I will do is basically keep the titanium the same, and I will make sure to auto smooth this. And this is just a problem with subdivision. We can solve that later on, but for now, let's go over here. Let's click on plus. Let's assign a new material to this. I will give it a glass material, make it darker. Like so, and we can still look through it, and I will decrease the roughness so it also shines a little bit, and then I will press I and bring it in ever so slightly, and now we should have some black glass that is showing through this anyways. We do still get some reflections in the camera glass, but we can also see the underlying material. Let's go into this material and let's hide it. Very good. And then I will select all of these inner areas like so. And I will give this a new material, assign. Perhaps I will make it a bit more grayish, metallic, and slightly less rough. Let's play around with the color of this in order to get it to look like what we want it to look like. And all we need to do now is select all our camera lenses. And now that we got all of those, I'm simply going to bring them together with Ctrl J. I will click on plus to give it a new material, make it glass, and find online what the IOR for camera glass is. Approximately 1.4 to 1.8. I'm going to set it to 1.8. I think this looks mighty fine. Now, it is possible to get a more extreme reflection in this simply by using a noise texture, a color ramp set to near. But first we have to select HSV, near, and then give it some other colors like this, and plug this in the color of the lens. And now you can actually get some of those variations in the lenses that you would usually see. So make it whatever color you think suits best. I think some type of purplish looks pretty good as well. We can also plug in a hue, saturation and value and make it less extreme. So very slight like this. So we do get some of those reflections. And yeah, you can play around with that if you think it looks cool. I think it gives this extra camera-like effect where you see this purple bluish light coming through it. Some people don't like it. I do like it. It kind of depends. And if you don't like it, you can always just unplug it, right? Unplug it and make it more dark or something like that. So let's go over here and that settles that. Let's now go over to this material right here. Let's click on new. I will bring in a wave texture like this. Control plus, I want it to be rings. Control T, object. No, UV. And if we plug the UV in, then we get all of these circles. And that's great because I want to plug that into a bump map. Color into the height, normal into the normal. Let's have a look at this. Ah, there you go. It's already starting to look like what we need. Roughness all the way down. Let's auto shade this smooth, and we can increase the transmission to make it more glass-like. And then there's two more tricks in order to make this look good. So let's go over here and add a volume, principled volume node. I will plug it into the volume. We'll increase the density, make it very white, and also increase the emission strength. Just a little bit, like so, until this looks like the standard iPhone thingy. I feel like it could have more rings, so I'm simply going to increase the scale. It's a Fresnel light. It's the same thing as in your car headlight, you know, and when the light shines through it, it just becomes, or seemingly stronger. It's also how lighthouses work. So I believe that this is the function of this thing as well. I think the flash is coming from that area. I'm not entirely sure. Let's just play around with these settings until we get to a result where we're like, all right, that looks cool. We can also duplicate this and bring one more inside. Then make a new material and increase the emission strength just a little bit. Let's bring it further back. And this will give it a little bit of an extra layer, like so, if you want to do that. I think in our case, I'm not going to do it. I think this looks fine, although the bump may be more expressive. Then, over here, we have another glass material. And I actually just want to give it the same glass as this one. So let's go over here and let's make a new material. I will find that glass. Oh, we didn't name it, I believe. So I will select this, Alt H. Let's select this one and it's black glass is what I'm going to call it. Then go back in this material, select this and plus assign black glass. There you go. And now we have some black glass for this area as well. We created the back side with the logo and of course now we need to do the front side. So what I'll do is I'll select this inner area right there. Control plus, Control plus, Control minus. And it seems to me like we can give this another material. So let's assign this and let's call it bezel matte. And I'll make it black. Very simple stuff. Maybe decrease the roughness or increase the roughness a little bit. And now we got the bezel right there. Perhaps the bezel can be even more like throughout this entire ring right there. But I think it might be a little bit too much. What I will do is perhaps add another loop cut. Select this area and then do the bezel matte. I think this looks fine. It's very small, but still noticeable. So let's just roll with that. Now let's select this entire loop, which we got here. Selected loops, select loop inner region. And that's going to be this material that we just created. So assign it. And it's basically going to be the LED screen glass, by the way. So there are two things that we can do with the screen. We either need to make a double layer so that we can have a backside with an emission plane on it. And then the front side can be glass. And I think that looks very cool. Or you can simply do the LED screen. But I find that it looks a little bit fake since there's no reflection on the screen itself. Now, in order to get that done, all you need to do is add a glass BSDF. Let's plug it in to see the difference. Yeah, so it's kind of see-through now. So let's set the roughness to 0.2, IOR to 1.33, kind of like water. And what we can do is increase the metallic, increase the roughness. So now it looks like this, and increase the transmission. And now we have something that looks like this. And we're just going to mix those together. So Control O, mix shader. And let's bring it over to this side. It should be more glass than the other thing. But as you can see, we get this see-through glass type of effect right now. And now that we've got this part, I'm simply going in here. I will Shift D, click G and Y, and move it back ever so slightly until it just disappears, like so. And then I will give it a new material, and I will call it LED display. And instead of all of this, I'm actually just going to use an emission right here. Control T, I selected my image, and I will bring this into the surface and increase the strength and make sure that we have a cube projection. Why is it not showing? Because if I bring it over here, then we can definitely see it. So the problem is with our front display. Oh, I think we messed it up. How did we get to mess it up? That's weird. Anyway, so let's select this line, select loop in a region, give it a new material, let's click on the sign, new, then let's make it LED display. And instead of LED display, we're going to copy this, and we're going to call it LED screen glass, and assign it, and now drag in the original mix shader. There you go. Let's go to the LED display, set the strength to 1, and I will show you what I mean. If I bring in an area light and shine this at the glass, let's make sure the spread is 0, we still get a glass reflection despite the fact that the display is giving light. Now, if you only have an emission shader, then you will not get this effect. And that's why it's better to make a double screen like this, and then you will have the LED in the background and you will have the reflection on the foreground, and this gives it just a little bit more realism and dynamicism. Select only the LED display, which we've got right now. Go into the UV editor and select our image, our iPhone screen that is. And I'm just going to scroll this up, and you can make it however dark you like. And this requires some fiddling around when you are making actual renders with this. Now, if you really want to go hardcore, you can add some fingerprints and stuff like that, but I'm not going to do that. It's a very clean looking model. Let's see, did we forget anything? Do we have everything right now? So we have the screen, we have the back screen. Ah, there you go. There are some things right in here, and we've got some metal textures for the screws. Now, I'm going to select this button, click on new, increase the metallic, and perhaps decrease the roughness. Maybe make this slightly darker or whatever. Something like that. Barely changed, but still going to give it to this one as well. Finally, I'm not going to make the entire normal map again. I will simply use it from the other iPhone model that I already have. It's the speaker material, and it has a certain image. It's a normal map speaker 3, if I'm seeing that correctly. And I will simply select this backplane. Do that for all of these. Make sure you get the backplanes for all the holes. And I will click on Shift D. G and Z, bring it down a bit. I'm going to set this to individual origins, scale it up ever so slightly, like so. And now it's filling up this entire area. I will give it a new material, obviously, assign, and let's bring in the Control T, and I've got it right here. Normal map, speaker 3. It's not the best material ever, but it is one that works. Plug it into the emission for now so I can actually see what we're doing. This is not the perfect normal map. You can see these lines running through here. It's not It's not that great. Play around with it a bit. Get it to work in a sketchy way. Sketchy way is still a good way. Just play around with the scale and stuff like that until you get to a point where you're like, yeah, turn off the emission altogether. This should go into a bump map. Bump in the height, normal in the normal. Color ramp in between to make it more black and white. And let's make it more white by increasing the contrast. Like so. Very good. So now we also have these little areas like that. You can plug it in the roughness as well, if you like. Or plug this one in the roughness, give it a new color ramp, and make it more rough by making it more black. Who knows? Whatever you want to do. It's not going to be that visible. One thing that I do notice, however, is in this iPhone right now, we have some shading issues. All right, and now for all of these, we still have to select the loops, which is what I'm going to do. Simply select the innermost loop for all of these and press Shift E and drag it out like so, and that will remove these final blemishes like that. Now let's give this a very simple metallic material, just like our screws, like this. And now it is metallic, very cool. And there's only one thing left to do then, and that's those inset things where the Bluetooth or transmitter stuff is in, so somewhere over here I feel. So how can we do it? Well, I'm simply going into the Data Object Properties tab, make a new UV map. So we've got UV maps here. I'm going to call this one Insetter and select it like so. So let's go right here in our titanium, and I will bring in a new Principled BSDF, a new mix shader. So select both of these. Control T because we want to add an image texture. I'll drag it all the way over there. Remove the mapping. I will bring in my own UV map. And the UV map will be Insetter UV in the vector, and we're going to make a new material for this, and it's going to be called Insetter. 1024 by 1024 is fine, but you can do a higher resolution if you'd like. Showing this in the vector, it actually destroyed everything, and that means that this should be flipped around. So I'm going to flip this, and now I will go in this material and actually just use the UV map that we got in order to guide this texture. And now in the texture pane tab, you want to make sure that this one is white, and I'm simply going to make half of this texture white. So we have one area that's black and one area that's white. And now we can assign certain parts of this UV map to the white area or the black area. And then we will have effectively created a mask. That's basically what's going on. So going back to the layout tab, we should now have an inverted mask. So what I will do is go in here, make sure we have the titanium selected, Cube projection, then go into the UV editor. Let's select our new texture, which is the Insetter. And I'm basically going to scale everything to black, and that should make it titanium. And then I'll select my very specific areas, like right over here, for example, until this area, and bring it to the white. Let's see. Yeah, so now we have our specific other area. Now what I want to do is make sure that these Insetter areas are the same color as this backside. So let's go to the backside neutral. First go to the shader editor, backside neutral, select all of this, copy, let's go over back into the titanium, Control V, and now this one should go into the bottom. And now it's moving slowly over into the other material, and I think that looks a bit more supreme. So yeah, that's how we do it, and let's do it at some other areas as well. And let's bring it all the way in the white. Looks great, looks great. All right, for the final texture, I almost forgot, but on the bottom side here, we should give this a different type of metallic. And that's why we created this part in the first place with this specific geometry. So what I'll do is I create a new material, I will select a sign, and it seems to me like it is going a bit beyond its boundaries. And that means that we should select this outer loop, Shift E it, like so, to keep it constrained within its original state. Then I will select every single part of this. I will give this a new material, assign it, and call it Special Metal. Make it metallic, and bring down the roughness just a little bit. And that's just a very small little detail that still adds to the render. And now if we take a look at all of this, there are some small details that can be improved, such as this part right here. Originally, it was quite circular. So what I did is I scaled it on the y-axis to make it smaller. And then I changed the geometry simply by extruding some area like this to give it a middle part that looks like that. And well, what it comes down to, if I do it again, simply extrude this out, E and S, E, Y, and S, something like this until we get a circular type shape. Fill it up, and then you'll have something that looks generally the same. Now, finally, there's one more thing that we should do, and that is going into our LED screen right here and add the dynamic island. Then right in here, we have a double layer. And if we click on this and press L, we will have it selected. Now let's click on Ctrl I and click on H. And in that fashion, we will have this model right here. And it's actually very simple, and there's two things that we can do. We can either select all of this, which is what I'm going to do first, and give it the LED screen glass material, which looks like this. So then we should have some black area. And finally, if you want to make sure that this inner part looks like a camera, so right here, then it is possible to simply select I and give this a new material, assign it, and this is going to be our lens material, which I believe is this one. There you go. So that's what you can do. In my case, I'm simply going to keep it at black glass. I think it is fine for what I try to achieve. And I also added a crease right here in order to have this texture not be stretched. So let's have a look at the final result. We can now see the dynamic island through our glass right there. So concluding this, we have finished the entire model and it looks pretty premium and supreme if you ask me. So we created the metallic material for the back. Then we created a slightly different material for this one, including the shiny Apple logo, which we got right there. We made some cameras, and the inside of the camera we added some type of purple glow effect that you often see in these lenses. We made this inner area which looks like a Fresnel lens, and this will help make the flash more bright. That's what I reckon it is for. We've got this part right here, which is just some black glass. We made the buttons slightly different than the titanium. We added glass to the front of this iPhone, so we still have reflections while also having an emission behind it. And now we have something that looks way more realistic than simply using a LED display. We also made the bottom side, fixed some problems here, added some speakers even. We added some speakers in these little holes. It's very good. And then we have our little screws right there and just some simple metal textures to finish it off. We also created a bezel line around here. So in the next video, I will show you exactly how to light this model, and it will look professional enough for Apple to place it on its own website. Maybe some dude, some graphic designer that works at Apple is like going through his folder looking for the image to place on the internet. And then all of a sudden he finds your render and he's like, oh wait, is this the original? I'm not entirely sure. Let me just place it online, and then they accidentally use your render. That's how good it will be. So I will see you in the next video. Subscribe, by the way.